Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Wherever you call home, we are there. In favorite places. Large spaces. For many homes, we have coverage that fits the way you live. And with our home systems protection, you can cover major home appliances and more. We cover more type of homes than ever. Get the coverage you and your family deserves. For a free no obligation quote, visit us online or simply give us a call.
Back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitron. I'm here with Datu Tim Hartman, and we're going to touch base on martial arts, Filipino martial arts, and everything that's been going on in the last couple of years. How are we doing today, my friend?
Doing wonderful. How about you?
Good. Same here. Is it as hot as it is over there as it is in Texas?
No, it's only 82 at the moment.
We're at 105, so.
Yeah, we'll hit the 90s once in a great while. It's 100, but you know, I see the rest of the country and people like, you got to move away from the snow. Where are you going, Arizona or Texas? I'm like, one extreme to the next. I mean, you know.
It's been over 100 since May. We had a couple of days that were 90s because it rained a lot, but now it's 90 something at 12 o'clock at night. So,
and you know, if you're conditioned for that, that's fine. You know, just like here, we'll have negative 14 degrees for a month and a half, and to me, it's like it's just cold. You know, they're like, you know, and some people, how do you function? It's just the cold. It's just you get conditioned.
Absolutely, it's environmental conditioning. And just like, you know, that's a good thing. Environmental conditioning goes with martial arts and stuff like that. So let's touch base on that. Eskrima, arnis, Kali, the Filipino martial arts. How did you come to find it? How did you become what you are now? How did you start?
Dumb luck. So I was a partial artist most of my life. You know, we were backyard guys that would do wrestling. You know, there's a pair of I'm a Gen Xer, first year Gen X, 65. So, you know, when you throw a bunch of boxing gloves around a Gen Xer, what do? Put the gloves on and punch each other, you know. Then we wrestled, we did this, we did that. And then when I got into middle school, a bunch of my friends did martial arts. So we started hanging out together. And training. So it was, you know, the backyard stuff. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then, you know, my friends were legitimate martial artists. So I was the partial artist. I had real world experience where they had, you know, dojo experience. So it was a fun exchange. And they were always encouraged me to get into legitimate training. And I wanted to, but it was beyond my means. So one year I finally set the goal. By Christmas, we're pulling the trigger. And I knew the backup place I was going to go to. Where it was a karate place, Bill Adams Martial Arts and Fitness, who helped me in the long run. So it was an Ishinru school, and I was all good to go there as my backup plan. And then an acquaintance of mine reached out to me and said, hey, you got to check this place out. I went there, fell in love, and it was Arnis. It was my first legitimate training. And I stuck with it. I left the school. The instructor was going in a different direction, including leaving the arts. And I left the school. He stayed around for a while. I started getting my own thing going. Professor Praces reached out to me directly, said if I want to continue training, he would teach. Like, oh, okay, that's great. And that was in 87 when he reached out to me. And, you know, I just went through it. I was with him up until the time he passed away in August of 2001. and I was the last ever to receive the title of Datu. So Datu is a tribal leader. Now when I go to the Philippines, I talk to historians. This last trip was a real beneficial one. It came up. It told me a lot of things, and the last thing I asked was about Datu. It was a Muslim country before the Spanish got there. So first of all, is this a Muslim thing or is it a Filipino thing? Because just because a country does something, like bullfighting is in Spain, that's Catholic, but it's not a Catholic thing. It's a Spanish thing about bullfighting, So I'm like, all right, is the title of Datu a Muslim title or is it a Filipino? It was Filipino. And at the end of the day, and I've had a lot of grief because I'm not Filipino. I'm Caucasian, mostly German, and I've had some people give me grief, mostly the non-Filipinos, and sometimes the Muslims, because people were trying to say that this was a Muslim thing. In Malaysia, Datuk, which is similar, is more of a knighting title. You've been knighted, and that comes from the family. But this is not that. This just means tribal leader. So I was the last of 6. And then, I did other things. Professor Price has opened the door for me to work with other people to do the roots of our art. I've worked with his brothers to work the extensions of the art. I've worked with countless, like Kempo Karate. A lot of people said that Filipinos used Kempo in Hawaii as a vehicle to teach their Filipino martial arts. So I went into that. There might be something to it based on how similar a lot of the things are done. And then the late Huck Pilatus would always come up to me and go, "Don't let anyone fool you, Tim. It's all Filipino." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but you're Filipino, so that." I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'll go with that." So
He'll be missed. I knew Huck for a very long time, and my kids called him Uncle. And there was something that hit me very hard last week when he passed. And last of the dinosaurs, if I want to say that, and and it's something that in the Filipino stuff, he used to say, well, Cali came from, Vita Brio was very close with the Gadjukembo people over there, and that's very, very true about that. And now I'm going to ask you that question now that we opened that door. What's the difference between arnis, cali, eskrima? Is it one and the same, or are there differences, or what exactly is it? Because a lot of people I heard arnis in the 80s. Then all of a sudden, Kali came out, and it was basically people that were more involved with the Jeet Kune Do side of things. And then Eskrima, people that were more in the Stockton area, kind of arts. You understand what I'm saying? So, what is what? Explain that.
Okay. So I'm known for being okay. I'm a Gen Xer. We speak our mind, and sometimes I am so direct. People think I'm trying to be rude. I just don't want to mix words. So when I say this, I'm just going to be telling about my personal experience with this. So personally, as far as Arnis, Kali, or Eskrima, to me, those are generic words saying Filipino martial arts that are weapon based. And Remy Priestess's first book was The Practical Art of Eskrima, but he went to Arnis based on a recommendation of his wife. He goes, "No one else is using the word. This is better marketing." Now, on my recent trip to the Philippines, I got to speak to that historian I talked about. Well, as per what he said, Kali means to dig. It is not a martial culture. It's not a martial arts term in the Philippines. So, and people said, well, the word comes from kalis, the sword. Well, kalis, when you would do a unit of measuring that is done by volume and not weight, like a cup of flour, you scrape the top of that off. That is to kalis. Farmers kali, which are dig. So when an American mistranslated things and put the word kali in there, others went with him. I'll give you an example. Bikini Tertia was Bikini Tertia Arnis. Now it's Bikini Tertia Kali. They saw a marketing opportunity and they went with it. And Filipinos do that. I've been going to the Philippines since 2007, and I saw people change the name of their systems for better marketing as time went on. My personal opinion, based on what's been told me, is that Kali is not in the Filipino language and to that extent. But if people want to use it for branding, I understand about it. But Kali is not the mother art. Saying Arnis Kali and Eskrima, as it applies to the weapon-based portions of Filipino martial arts, to me is like saying karate or kung fu. There are open hand systems there, such as Kuntao, Sikran, and Dumag and Buno. I actually do Kuntao and Sikran, which are karate, and karate kung fu is the Kuntao is more of like a karate kung fu blend, and then the Sikran is a foot fighting art that's very similar, but did not come from Taekwondo. And then there's Yao Yan, which is a Filipino version of Thai boxing. So there's a lot of other arts there, but when everyone thinks what's the trademark of the Philippines, that's the weapons. So if you say the weapon arts, like saying Kabuto in the Okinawan Japanese arts, if you're going to put the weapon category systems there, Arnis Kali, Eskrima, and it was mostly Arnis and Eskrima.
Right. Because I saw the differences in the names and I said, okay, maybe it was the differences when they were developed.
Yeah,
and so on.
It's region. I mean, listen, there's over 7,000 islands. I mean, Remy would tell me stories that he would have problems communicating with his cousins from one village over, let alone an island over. You know, there's different dialects and all this other stuff, and you know, and I'm not gonna. And I've got. If we argue about the word Kali, I'm not going to argue about the word Kali. The only thing I'm going to sit there saying it's not the mother art, because some styles try to take it. Kali is the mother art. I'm like, stop it. It wasn't the mother art when you used to call your art Arnis. So you know why? So once again, marketing, and like I said, I don't have any skin in the game when it comes to that. I could care less. You know, if people want to call it Kali, that's fine. You know, but it's more of a title that's been adopted than it was. It's not culturally correct as I was explained by a historian when it comes to the use of the martial arts, or as it applies to martial arts.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's another thing. When you went into, what got you into, you were doing martial arts, you're looking at this, and you went into a school. Was it a school that was teaching Arnis, and you saw that and you said, you know what, this is what I like? Or
so, well, once again, I learned how to handle myself before I got into a traditional school, and I was just searching for a school. I didn't know what was going to go on. I was a big Kung Fu Bruce Lee fanboy. There was no Jeet Kune Do in the area. The Kung Fu was a little more esoteric than I wanted, and I was going to settle on doing karate because I was just trying to find out. I mean, you might know what the best art for you is, but it may not be available in where you're at. And I had ideas, but once again, and then just before before I pulled the trigger, my friend called me up and told me to go, and it just happened to be a Filipino martial arts school. So I wasn't looking for Filipino martial arts, and I mean, and if you have non-martial artists looking at the podcast, most people just find a martial art which is convenient geographically. Oh, there's a school around the corner, so I start there. And maybe down the road they change systems because they want something that expresses themselves more when they make this a lifetime versus just a temporary hobby.
I agree with you fully. A lot of people start martial arts because it's around the corner.
Yeah.
And it's closer to the house. And guess what? I'm going to go over here. And then those that get serious about learning, then they start researching and try to say, you know what? I'm looking for this, and they'll start going. And you're absolutely correct. That happens everywhere. So again, location for martial arts schools is very convenient.
Yeah. So I was just lucky that I found the one that really vibed with me before I was in another program. So I talk. We go We go through a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of people who've changed styles, and not just into our knees, but other things. They've, like if you look at all the Parker or Jeet Kune Do with Bruce Lee, a lot of the original guys were all Parker black belts. Like Inosanto was a Parker black belt, and people forget that. Larry Hartzell was a Parker black belt. But doesn't, like I said, when you make that transition from instructor or hobbyist to lifer, then you might find yourself changing directions, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. And people need to understand that, especially those that have martial arts schools that are out there. You have to understand that a lot of these commercial schools that you have clients. Those clients are there. So if they move down the street and there's a school that's closer and cheaper to you, guess where they're going to go? They're going to go over there. It's going to be the ones that those students that become, I'll use the term disciple. They'll be really searching before a disciple becomes an instructor, and they're the ones that are going to look and search and find a style that they're going to run with in the future. Those students that turn into that they're always there looking, that they're always searching, and those are the ones that are going to research a little bit more, and those are the ones that are continue.
There's a place, and it's not disrespectful to switch schools. I mean, it's like switching restaurants. We are paying for a service,
right?
And if it's no longer what we're looking for, I get refugees from other martial arts schools, but the bulk of my students are brand new. I don't want somebody else's students. I'm not trying to recruit them, but I've had a bunch of people come over. They're lifetime martial arts. They've run the gambit of what they can learn where they're at. They feel stale and they want to do something different. The same token with myself. I continue to train, and right now, since COVID, the only thing I've been training other than my primary arts have been Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a shocker for people who listen to me because I bust BJJ's chops all the time. But I was actually the guy that brought the first BJJ program to the area, but I just did it for more to help my ground game. I didn't care about competing or stuff like that. It was a supplemental, enrichment program. So I like people watching me and say, no, do it again. You're wrong here. I don't care how much I know on this, but if I'm training something else, it has a tendency of helping my primary art because it helps having a level of accountability, knowing things are wrong. It keeps it current in my head. And that's another reason why I'll do tournaments. I don't care. I mean, I give my awards away if I win, but my kids do tournaments and I'll go with them. And even though a lot of it's not applicable to my real world tactics, working for something, looking at myself and unless I could have been better here, I could have done that here. And there's always, any kind of sparring is good for distancing and timing. But when you have a goal, I got a tournament coming up. I better get going for that. I'm not testing anymore in anything. I just train, and it's not like I have that goal anymore. So I need those. For me, I want to have those things to that level of accountability. And that's why I was doing the Kun Tao and the Seek Round. Unfortunately, those two arts, my instructor retired after COVID up in Canada. So, I'm still doing things with the art, but I don't have a close source for it. Working San Miguel Eskrima in the Philippines, and we're doing virtual classes. But the only thing I have where an instructor's in my face going, doing a technique to me is my BJJ, which it goes a long way, it keeps you in that student mindset.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Here's and that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Now here's another one that I'm going to ask, because you said how, because you've been around for a while, how have people that come into the martial arts
a school
from say the 80s to now?
I broke up a little. It's 80s to now. I didn't hear the first part of that.
Students wise, people that are looking for martial arts,
Okay.
how do you looking at from in the 80s to right now? What are they looking for? What are they asking? Why are they coming to a martial arts school?
Well, it's mostly a kids market right now. You know, I mean, if you've got a commercial school, you know, and I was very fortunate to take my profession and my passion and turn it into a profession. So, but you know, a lot of times right now with my kids' classes, it's gross motor skills, character development, focus. They're having problems focusing. They're all over the place, so they need a place to let go. My adult class, a lot of adults now, they were in my kids' class. They graduated. They went up. The adults are looking for physical fitness, a positive outlet for any hostilities. So they'll hit the bags periodically on their own. Like, you know, they all know anytime you want to come and hit the bags before or after class, let me know, you know, as long as it's not disrupting a class that's already going, you know, but I don't want to say people aren't thinking about self-defense. I don't have those people that are running to me because they feel that they're in danger.
Right.
You know, but I do a martial art. So there's martial arts have 3 categories. They fall into martial arts, martial sport, martial combat. We do all 3, but I'd say my primary focus is on the combatives, which self-defense is part of that, big part about it. And I tell people, I go, listen, you know, my people are happy to have a good time here, but what makes me happy is I know that I'm increasing their chance of survival in real world encounters, and there are no guarantees. And that's another reason why a lot of people are here, because they do feel that it is for fun and fitness, socialization, stuff of that nature. But they also like the fact that they feel that they can pull off the maneuvers in a real situation. And especially the refugees I've got, they're like, oh my God, we learned this in this art or that art. That would never work, because I don't go into what we do. I go in the how and the why as well. And I'm like, okay, now this really isn't going to work like we do our trapping. It's really not going to work off a straight punch. It's not there long enough. But off of a straight grab, that's another story. So now we try to make sure that whatever we're doing, there is an application that makes sense. Like when you're doing kata, a lot of times you see kata, it's like, this makes no sense to me. Well, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, and you know, some arts have, you know, we evolve with the needs at the moment, you know.
Absolutely, and a lot of arts do that. Now, here's a question, because you mentioned San Miguel. What's the difference between San Miguel and some of the other escrimas that you've seen?
So San Miguel is actually cousins to Doce Pares.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the little more detail how it came, but they have a lot of the same fundamentals. Doce Pares is where Balintawak Eskrima came from. So Anshan Bakan was the founder of Balintawak, was a Doce Pares person pre-World War II. The Savages were killed during the war. And when it came time to reform the club, he just did his own thing. And it was called Balintawak because it was a self-defense school on Balintawak Street. So Remy Pracis, my teacher, the last art he trained before forming Modern Arnis was Balintawak Eskrima. So I'm going back to do my roots. As far as San Miguel, as well as Doce Pares, it is a very stick and dagger centric system. Now, Anshan McCon came for that, but he would sharpen his training knife and stab people, so they took it away from him because he's known as a single stick fighter. So he started adapting a lot of the techniques where you'd block with your stick and you'd hook with your knife. So that became his hand like here, like this, and do strikes from there. So, but very, very stick and dagger centric program. I've been having fun with it.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's it, you know. And you did say something in there that about that caught my attention, was because I think the same way. Getting people that are coming from other martial arts, you don't want that student. At least I don't. It's going to take me a while to take away and for him to kind of think differently. Understand? A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to change that mentality. And
I don't have problems with that. The big thing is when we're talking, I'm trying to make sure that So listen, I got bad habits. No, you have different habits. We're trying to add to those habits. And there's nothing wrong with it. But obviously, if you've got a habit that's taking you to the left and you need to go to the right, we need to work on that. In many ways, I prefer previously trained students because they've been through the program. They know I don't have to take them. Okay, why do we bow? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? They know a lot of that stuff. So there are a lot of benefits of it. And they're usually a little more athletic coming through the door. But then again, I got some people that do some arts that are completely different on the other end of the spectrum. And it definitely it's working against them. Because when their motor memory kicks in, it's on the other end of the spectrum. It's not even close. So, but the thing is, my doors are open up for pretty much anybody. You're welcome until you make yourself unwelcome. And, but who am I? And I have, see, that's the reason now for those who are listening. If you teach and you got that guy that walks through the door that gives you the vibe that you want nothing to do with, that's why it's good to have the Taekwondo school down the road. It's like, you might want to try these guys. They got a better schedule and all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I've definitely sent people to other places because they're, well, like, what? Okay, you're in Amherst. You passed like 5 schools to get to me. Did you just see me, or do you specifically want Filipino martial arts? Oh, you want Filipino martial arts? Okay, this is the only school. Got it. But I have some other people that reach out to me. I'm like, okay, where are you? You're on this street. You know that there's a karate or Taekwondo school right down the road. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, and I'll do referrals because they might have a family member or friend out by me that, hey, this guy was cool. He's in your neighborhood. You should go check him out. He's right there. So
that's a good way of thinking. We get the same thing a lot. We get a lot of guys that want to go in the ring, and for a while I haven't taken anybody in the ring. So I'll send them off to a boxing gym. That takes people to go over here. Why are you going to have somebody inside your school that likes what you're doing, but really doesn't like the fact for whatever reason? He's going to be uncomfortable or might say something, so it's better off to refer him to somebody else.
Yeah.
And he said this guy was cool enough and has a friend or somebody else close, and they'll recommend. That happens a lot. Now, there's a lot of arts that I've seen, especially because I come from the Savate background and of course with Kempo, right, as well. But in the Savate nature, we do have weapons, but what I hear a lot in the Filipino, we have corto range and medio range and largo range. Mm-hmm. How does that apply? Did different systems become different ranges, or?
In some cases, yes. So I just did a Buitron camp this weekend. Okay. So one of the things we talked about specifically was that that how it was created was in the back of the studio was in the back of a watch store, and the area was about the size. If you have a judo mats, it's the size of one of those, which means it's about 3-4 feet wide and 6 to 8 feet long would be the training area. If you're in the city, so I've been to the Philippines 10 times so far. I'm going back for Halloween. I'll be there for a couple weeks. Some of the alleyways you can touch with both your hands at the same time. So, when you're in a hallway, like you just think a hallway of your house, if that is the area, you're going to be fighting a lot closer. So if you're more in a rural area in the country, you've got more room, you take more room. So there are definitely systems that work on that. So like using the Sikaran as an example, they're a foot fighting art, but if you saw it generically, if you didn't know what you're looking at, you'd think it was Taekwondo. But the difference is they'll be standing face to face and still kick you in the head. Where Taekwondo generally does longer distance loads. The Buitron is definitely a shorter art. I put it to akin to boxing, so that's like a boxing range. modern arnis, my primary, does all of the ranges. Very effective long range. And then people say, well, why do you train short range so much? Because it's a hard range to train. You have to put more time into it because it's probably the most difficult of all the ranges. Too many things are going on. I mean, long range, I can step back. I can do things, you know. So there are definitely different regions have different, but depending on the environment, change. So the medium range, I don't see much of that. I just see everyone's either got a long medium or a short medium, you know. So, but there's definitely different styles that do that. And, you know, like I said, Buitron is a perfect example. Buitron and Sikaran are very close quarter range fighting. Now you do the San Miguel, you know, where you know, in the Doce Pares, there's definitely a lot more longer range techniques because they had a bigger training environment where Anshan had a smaller one and he was more fighting in alleyways. So, you know.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. What would you say to people that want to come in and try the Filipino martial arts, or martial arts in general? What would you tell them for the first question that comes into hand?
Well, martial arts in general. Well, I mean, first of all, what I would let. So that's a complicated one. So there's a lot of things to talk about. So I actually give people some recommendations when they ask me things. I go, you have to understand what you're looking for. And I'm not saying the system, but what's your end goal? I want to learn how to protect myself. Okay. All right. So if someone said I want to go in a boxing gym, I'm like, all right. That could help, but it's not a self-defense program. There's no question that boxing can be used in the streets to defend themselves. But a boxing gym isn't going to work on grabbing and choking defenses, multiple attackers, weapons, and stuff like that. Great supplemental art, and boxing by definition is a sport. So if you're looking to compete, then you got to figure out what kind of competition you want to go into. And, I actually looked at doing kickboxing one time while I was doing arnis. And I realized that I just don't like hurting people. I can hurt people. And I have, because of how I was brought up, I have no problems causing pain to someone. That's never been my problem in a real world scenario. But punching people in the face fairly hard on a regular basis, it's just not. I'm used to a certain level of conditioning, but not everyone else is. And a big part, I want people to be able to make it to school, make it to work, make it to all these other places. And, it wasn't the way I wanted to express myself. Although I did all the training aspect of things, of all the combinations, the kicking and stuff like that. But I just, the regular, and when I spar, I like going that way. But, I remember the one time they had me sparring, the guy's like, well, all right, when are you going to punch me in the face? I'm like, but you're not wearing a helmet. I mean, I don't want to smash your nose and give you a black. Well, we're boxing. I understand that, but everyone's got to work the day after, and it's a mindset. And I don't think it's a wrong mindset. And I don't think that the guy who said there, why aren't you punching me in the face? He had a wrong mindset. It's just that, like, I like Italian. Someone else might prefer Mexican. Okay, there you go. And it's just, you got to find your vibe. And I would tell people, check out multiple styles. Know if you want sport, art, or self-defense, or a combination thereof. I get cops coming in here. Hey, I'm thinking about doing, or family members that are cops. And they're like, I'm thinking about having my guy do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for that. I'm like, that's a good and bad thing. You really don't want to be rolling around on the ground when there's a bunch of people there. But if you're going to do it, make sure it's not a sports school. Make sure it's a school that can help you work on weapon draws while you're on the ground and stuff of that nature. Because there's definitely a difference between sports jiu-jitsu and street jiu-jitsu. And in that case, a lot of times I tell them, look for Japanese jiu-jitsu instead of Brazilian, because they can do a lot of stuff. It's the full art versus just the newaza of judo, but that's another topic.
You're correct. learn a little bit more, because there's a lot of great older jujitsu arts out there that are phenomenal.
I miss Wally J. He was best friends with my teacher, and I love, man, he would throw me around like there was no tomorrow. It was great, and I felt the stuff was very applicable, and it could go into other arts as well. And we lost him. Well, he stopped. He had vertigo. He stopped teaching. He had to stop teaching, and it was a bad time. If we would have had him healthy for another 10 years, that would have been during the UFC heydays, and I think stand-up jiu-jitsu would have been doing better. But after we lost him, he was the primary ambassador for stand-up jiu-jitsu, I think. And when we lost him, it just really, a void was there, and there was no one at that level that was out there doing stuff. I'm not saying that there weren't people his level, but there weren't people doing seminar circuits to represent. And I also think if he would have been around for another decade or so, we probably would have had him coaching someone in the UFC, which would have been really cool.
Yeah, you're probably right. I've met some of his students, and they're great people. They're great people. They're great. It is
on all levels. Great
Yeah.
martial artists and great people at the same time.
And that's what you look at when you go into a school, or when you're looking at the students of a teacher. You start seeing that they're great people. That's what happens in the Stockton. I've never been to the Philippines, so the closest I will get is Stockton. All those people out there in Stockton, the seniors, or the first generations of all the greats that were out there, they're excellent individuals. They're just some of the great martial artists that there is. Humble as can be. They embrace you as a brother, as a friend, and it's hard to find, because you see that in other arts, and it's very hard to find.
Yep, I've been out there a bunch of times, and they've been very, very accommodating for me when I come out there. They make me feel like family, and I like that.
And how do you see right now with YouTube coming of age, you can connect with people that are in seeing arts that were you couldn't have seen in 20, 30 years ago. And now people are just grabbing from here. And how do you see the Filipino martial arts turning?
Well, I love the fact that we can now connect virtually. So before COVID, I was using Skype, and I was already doing virtual stuff long before COVID hit. But now COVID helped legitimize that kind of training. That being said, though, when possible, we need to be on the mats. Absolutely. And that's one of the things I complain about, because too many people it's too easy to rely on watching a video, even if it is live. It was really no different. You think back in the day, people would give us shit because we watched VHS cassettes. All right, the virtual stuff is the same, but different, because you can ask questions. And I do have virtual classes. People log in while I'm doing my class, but they will log into my regular classes from out of the area. So I do have those long distance students that can't make the commute. People in Brazil, in Sweden, in Germany, as well as Alabama and Colorado and stuff like that. So I think it's a great tool. I just don't like relying as that primary delivery system. And YouTube has done a great job, because people from all over the world download content for all of us to share, so we can see it, and then, these are the guys I want to work with, and look on how to visit them in person or bring them over.
Absolutely. I could say I'm 100% with you, because COVID changed everything, made things a lot easier. It opened the doors, it facilitated that, and people need to understand that needs to happen to grow. Well, number one, I want to thank you for your time, and also, what else would you like to do that's in the martial arts sense for people out there training?
Well, at the end of the day, we need to get more people doing what we do. Not more Filipino martial artists or Kaju or Taekwondo or whatever. We need to increase the community. Right now, our community is less than 1% of the population. Where dance and football and soccer and the hockey, oh my, the percentage of people that do that are significantly more. We need to look at each other as allies, not as enemies. We're not competition. You know, personally, I wouldn't care if a school opened up 2 doors down, not in my plaza, but even then, you know what? I do something different than all the others in the area. So, you know, we are allies. The true enemy of what we do is those other activities: soccer, lacrosse, bowling, hockey, travel hockey. And if we get out of our own way, I think in the long run, we'll be a much bigger and stronger community. I think COVID brought us together. And some industries, I wonder if it was because we wanted to work together, or if maybe some people wanted to scuttle somebody else's ship that was going down. You know, we were all, you know, we talk about things. We're all in the same storm. We're on our own ship, but we're all in that same storm. And I think the better we work together, the better we're going to do as a community and get more people involved. And we're going to stop fighting over nonsense. And what can we do to bring more people to our activity?
Absolutely. You know, I did a study here for Laredo, because we're in Laredo, Texas. And I checked to see how many schools or how many people were teaching a martial art program, period. Doesn't matter how many schools were alive and how many places were teaching, like rec centers and gyms and so on and so forth. You know, there were 83 before COVID. Okay. In August of 2021, there were 12 left.
Well, so I'm in a business martial arts association to help me run my school better. Okay.
Absolutely.
I pay a decent price. I'm with Maya. I'm not only in their elite membership, I'm also at CMA, which is a championship martial arts. I could use the brand if I want to, but I keep my own school because we've been around so long. Well, they did a study that 30% of all schools closed down permanently in COVID. So when we say we were less than 1%, we were less than 1% before COVID, and we lost almost a third of our members. And it may be more, because then you look at other programs, like a lot of Filipino martial arts train out of somebody else's facility.
Yep.
So how much of a hit did we really take? And I look at some schools that are, you know, some systems, like in the Sikaran, I'm hosting the World Championships this October. Well, we were talking about it. Oh, we got people in Fresno, California. Great. We have people here. Great. I want to talk to them. How's their clubs doing? Oh, they haven't reopened since COVID. I go, then you have nobody there. You have nobody. If they're not actively training, we have zero. Just think about how much that devastated us. So now is not the time to be arguing about little nonsense about whose style is better. It's about getting together
and moving forward.
Because, you know, the more people that are doing martial arts, the more people will do martial arts. If there's other schools, you get enough visibility. I'm the only school. Well, there's 2 schools in my town. One's the BJJ club, and then there's us. If there were 10 schools in this town, then the question wouldn't be, are you going to train martial arts? It's going to be more or less, where are you going to train martial arts? With that kind of visibility, you're going to attract more people. But when you only have one, and I had people come by my place, I didn't know you were here. I've been in this plaza since 2001. October 1st, 2001 is when we opened up. How long have you been here? You've been here for 24 years? Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. I wasn't paying attention. No, you weren't.
We used to get that all the time. They used to come out there and say, how long have you all been here? Since 90? Same place. And they used to say, wow, we've never seen you. We just lived down the street. The sign's outside. Oh, we didn't know what it was. Well, now you do, But again, like you said, word of mouth, it's that how can I put it? It's that tribe that we're missing.
Yeah.
Okay. What I mean by tribe is football, you have an uncle that was a football player that put all his nephews inside football players, and grandma used to go there, and the aunts go see him. So now little Johnny's in football. So now you have the grandma, the uncles, the aunts, and everybody going out there to cheer on because they all came in. That's a tribe. They're going after that. You get taekwondo's that way, but some of the other arts, they're not. You try to get them to go do a demonstration. Maybe a mom's going to come out and see the kid do a demonstration, and maybe they're going to come out. But that tribe hasn't been built enough for some of the arts that are out there. And I see that with the Filipino arts, and I see that with some of the Indonesian, of course, with Savat, which is rarer than all of them. But and we take it that route, So like you said, you have a good mentality and a good way of thinking, because that way of thinking, that's what I ran into in France. When I was teaching in France, there was so many different clubs of different martial arts teaching out of one place. And if you fought, guess what? The guy that was doing Kyoko Kinskai was out there cheering you on at the ring. The guy that was doing American boxing, or the guy that was doing boxing, regular boxing, they were out there cheering you on, and vice versa. And here, we got a kid that's Golden Gloves from the town, and people don't even go watch him.
We have a tournament league here that there's a couple, but one I created, and I'm actually stepping back a little because I'm going to be part of another one. We're leveling up some of the stuff we're doing, but the big thing here is that I don't have as much responsibility, and with my seminars, because I travel quite a bit, it makes it easier. Well, but the thing in both leagues, we cheer each other on all the time. Matter of fact, a lot of times you don't have a coach. All right, I'm not judging here. I'm going to coach you. I've coached other people's kids. Now, I won't coach them against my kids. If they're an exhibition match, I'll do that, because sometimes the kids are outmatched, or I'm upset with my kid. Since it's exhibition, I don't care. Like, all right, hit him with this. This is a weak spot. I'm like, why are you doing that? Because you keep dropping your hand. Every time you drop your hand, hit him in the head. But we have a good. If you want a successful program, club, whatever, and it doesn't have to be profitable. But you gotta run it like a business, because someone has to pay for the electric insurance and stuff like that. All right, but the other thing is you got to create a culture in your club that people want to be part of. And the thing here is, I am honored that my students want to train with me. They're not paying for the honor to work with me. I am honored that they choose to work with me. And my biggest accomplishment was our May camp. It was our 25th anniversary for the organization. It was my 60th birthday. And I had 4 generations of black belts on the floor training simultaneously. I mean, that's how I knew I had success, because we've developed a culture that people want to stay and be part of. And sometimes people take a little time off. But I have a guy who's taken about 15 years off because he had a family. Now he's retired from work, and he's with me almost every day of the week, because we established that culture, that family, ohana, whatever term you want to use. But if you have a martial family versus a club that people pay to be there and they don't want to be part of it, you still got to draw the line. You still got to be professional, because you let people get too close, they take advantage, or they take things for granted. But at the end of the day, you want to establish that culture and a family environment where people are hanging out in the parking lot long after classes are done, shooting the shit, talking stuff, or coming in early to work with each other, traveling on the weekends together, not doing tournaments. Just, hey, I got a cottage, let's all go up. When you have that in your martial arts club, you will be successful.
Absolutely, I agree with you fully. I agree with you fully. Well, we're running out of time, and I want to thank you for your time. And also, we'll see each other soon, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. We'll leave you with this. You all be safe, stay safe, and God bless you all. The next time, peace.
Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.